Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you?
I would say welcome back because it is welcome back, but
It
no
is,
one
this
else
is,
knows it's welcome back
no,
because
round
you,
two.
yes, round two, Tracy was evacuated during our last recording and she was trying so hard not to stress. She was like, there's a small chance I'm gonna have to leave due to fire
Yes,
evacuation,
there's a black cloud outside of our house right now, but
but you're
no, yes,
okay.
we're totally fine. Everything's
Good,
good.
good. So let's rewind.
Yes,
Welcome to the show. You
thank
are,
you so
as
much.
I've already done the intro, you are the founder of the Dedicated Collection and a mom
Or
of,
the decided collection.
I'll take
Yes,
that whole thing over. Sorry. As I mentioned in my intro, you are the founder of the Decided Collection, which we're going to
yes,
get more into, and you're the mom of two.
I am.
Let's start there. How did you become the mom of two?
I, it's a great question. It was a long journey.
Yes.
Um, so my husband and I got married, and shortly after we got married, about a year after we got married, we were oh, we should probably start thinking about, starting a family. And let me back up from there. I'd always loved kids. All of my friends were having babies. I was an auntie and a godmother to, everyone, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. I was building my career as my husband was. We weren't married yet. We'd been together for a long time. And so kids were on the radar, but not, I'd ask my doctor, like, hey, anything for me to be concerned about? And she was like, I have women in here and they're 47 babies. You're fine. Okay, great. Right. So we just kept plowing through life. We got married. And then a year or so later, we started trying. Um, and weren't really, again, it wasn't like this big pressure, like we have to get pregnant tomorrow. It was just kind of like, let's, stop all measures of not trying to be pregnant, and, let's see what happens. And, a year went by and nothing happened. And we thought, we should probably, look into this. And so talked to a doctor. And at this point, I'm 31. Um,
And you've been trying
and
since you were like 30.
yeah, yeah, we got married when we were 29. And so we went to a doctor, and the doctor I went to, unfortunately, my original doctor stopped practicing. So I went to a new doctor, and she
Which
was
is, by
immediate.
the way, traumatic. Like when you're in it and you've started going through
And
the
I had been
process.
seeing this doctor since I was like 18.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking years, right? She
Yeah.
knew me so well. She stopped practicing. So I went to this new doctor, and she was like, "Oh, basically, like, I don't deal with any of this. Here's a fertility specialist. You can go talk to them." It's like, okay, great. So we went, and it was a pretty traumatic for us. It was I don't want to say traumatic, overwhelming experience that first visit. We were like, whoa, it was a lot. And they're kind of throwing all these things at you, mind you, at the same time that we're in the room with the doctor. He brings in like three interns, right? So it's our first visit,
Ugh.
first time we've ever done anything like this. And it's me, my husband,
And
the
for
doctor, a nurse,
medical.
and like three.
Ugh.
And we were just like, so we walked out of there completely overwhelmed. We were like, we are not ready for this. Like, we're just not ready. Let's keep trying. So we keep trying. And needless to say, we never got pregnant. And so I had met a friend and found out they were going through something very similar that we were. So she referred us to another fertility specialist. We went, and much better experience, but it was overwhelming. Like, I think, and back then, right? So my daughter now is 11, so this is well before she was born. Um, gosh, I guess 18 years now almost ago. I don't even know what to say.
Crazy.
So, we, you know, you I wasn't talking about this, right? All of my friends, there was nobody that I knew that was going through this. All of my friends got pregnant on the no problem. And so it wasn't something we were out talking about. And so fortunately, we had talked to a few people. And again, I got connected with a friend and had them to talk through this with a little bit. But even then, it was just different, right? It's just a different time. Now I think it's so much more open. But so we went through the process. We found out I was the problem. you do all the testing, all the blood work, all of the things. And I had a low egg reserve. I'm sure many of your listeners will know exactly what that is.
Hmm.
And on top of that, the quality of my eggs were not great. So they started with IUI. We did 2 rounds of IUI, didn't work. They actually had a trial for IVF that we were qualified for. So we did a trial, we were part of a trial for them for doing IVF.
Do you remember what the trial was trying to measure?
I don't, but I think it was like a placebo and then, right, so you didn't really know.
Mm,
But we did it. We didn't get pregnant, but they were
mm.
able to glean more information in the sense of like, how many eggs would I, you know what I mean? There was some stuff in there that they could take and use for the next time we were going to do IVF, which they recommended. And so, I'm going this quick version and then we can go back.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
even through all of that, right? Like I think there's so much with infertility treatments. And again, today is probably very different. I would assume even more advanced now, right, than it
Yeah,
was back then. But it's all the shots. It's, taking your little kit to the office and going in the bathroom and giving, because you have to do the shot at 213 or whatever it
right.
may be, right? And so all of those things, you're hopped up on hormones, you're feeling, so life goes on. You're still working your jobs, you're still dealing with your families, you're still friends, all of the things, but you have this huge rock, right, that you're carrying,
Mm,
that I don't think anybody really, you can't fully understand it unless you've experienced it. And I
mhm.
think everybody around you can be as supportive and loving and all of those things as possible. But I say all that to say we were so excited about doing IVF for the second time because we were like, all eggs in one basket. Like this is it. We're gonna do this. Nervous, of course, um, but we did it and we got pregnant. So we were elated, right? We were
We're
so
like,
excited.
we're done, we're ready,
This is
we're,
it. This is
yep,
it. This is the money. Like we did it. Like all the hard work, everything that we had been going through. Um, I had
finally
started
paid
doing.
off.
Yeah, I
Finally,
was
yep,
doing acupuncture. I had gone on like I wasn't eating processed foods. I mean, no dairy, all the things that we were doing. Had done acupuncture treatments months before I did it. The day that we got implanted, I mean, I was on like if you had told me to stand on my head for 2 weeks, I would have done it.
yeah.
And um, took a week off from work, like just rested. We did everything. So we got pregnant. So we were like, yes, like this is it. It's finally we're here. And I was having, feeling symptoms and all of that stuff. And probably around, it's hard to remember now, but I want to say it was around 10 weeks. I started bleeding.
Mm. And
And
you'd seen the heartbeat and everything by then?
we knew, we knew it was viable. We knew it was
Yeah.
a viable pregnancy and all that, but it wasn't, still so small. You could see all the stuff in
Mm,
there. But I was at a conference actually for work
mm.
and started bleeding. And so called them and they're like, well, that happens if you're still bleeding tomorrow. It was kind of like, let's wait and see. Let's bring you in for some blood work and see what your levels are. And so I'm doing the conference, doing presentations, driving back and forth to my doctor's office every day to get blood work done because they wanted to see what the levels were. And unfortunately, my levels just started plummeting.
Oof.
And so we knew, but we went in and they did an exam and they said, we're sorry, but there's no baby.
Mm.
And so, of course, as you can only imagine, you're devastated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just heartbreaking. All of this work, all of this time, you just went from the highest of high to being so excited and planning, right? Already starting to think ahead to there's no baby.
Yeah.
And so we took some time, and basically the recommendation from there was, well, let me stop there. They wanted me to miscarry naturally. Looking back, I really wish that I would not have done that,
Mm.
because I ended up bleeding for several weeks,
Sorry.
which resulted in a massive infection.
Mm.
So I ended up having a really bad infection. I had to go on mega doses of antibiotics for like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And they were concerned if they had gone in that they would have had to basically give me almost like a hysterectomy.
Mm.
Thank God the antibiotics worked. I didn't have to have any of that done. But our next route was really to get an egg donor and do IVF, do the process again.
Can I
In
pause you
order,
really
sure.
quickly? How was it easy for you to consider moving to an egg donor or did it feel
No,
hard? Okay.
no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was something in the, when you first meet with them, they'll kind of give you all of your options, like all the different things that they can do. And one of the things that I had said was, I don't know that I want to do that.
Hmm.
I think it's wonderful that it's an option. I think anybody who wants to do it should take advantage of it. For me personally, it was like an all in or an all out thing, right? Like, so like either we were all in, the two of us, or we were all out. That's how I
Hmm.
felt
Yeah.
initially. After the miscarriage, I started to feel like, well, maybe, right? Let's explore it. Let's start looking at this. Um, and so we did, and you go through all the profiles and you're doing all of this stuff. But in order for us to do IVF again, I was going to have surgery to get my tubes removed. Because of the infection. I had fluid in my tubes, and they're like, we want to remove all of that, like take away as much risk as possible. Um, and at this point, I was so physically and emotionally drained. I was just tired, emotionally and physically. It was the shots, the ups and the downs, the back and forth to the doctor's appointments, managing that with a very, busy work schedule, all the things. And but we kept plowing through and looking at different things and exploring all of our options. And then, one night we just basically had a heart to heart. And I said, I just don't know if I can do this.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't know if I want to.
Had you been thinking it and then finally said it, or did it just sort of come
I
out in
had
that
been
moment?
thinking it for a while,
Hmm.
off and on, but you go through like, am I just afraid? Am I right? Like during the process, I feel like too, sometimes you lose your own intuition because you're just so
Yes.
wrapped up in wanting this baby. I
And
mean,
being on
just want to get
drugs
pregnant.
and
Yeah, like you
yeah.
just lose, you're almost in I felt like I was a bit in a fog,
Yeah.
just, and again, with the infection and everything else, I was a little bit of a mess, let's be clear.
Of course.
And
Deservedly so,
yeah,
deservedly so.
yeah. And so we ended up, I had always wanted to adopt. We had always said we would have one of our own, biological, and then we would adopt one. That was kind of the plan. That's what we had talked about. My mom was a foster child, and so adoption and that type of thing was always near and dear to my heart, still is. Um, and we sat down and we both basically said, like, what's the ultimate goal here? Is the goal to get pregnant? Because we could get pregnant and we still might not have a baby, right? We already know that that's possible because we've already been down that road. Or is the goal to be a family? And we both said it's to be a family, which thank God. I mean, that my husband was,
Beautiful way to look at it.
yeah, and so and that's kind of how it started. And so we stopped all fertility treatments, which honestly was a relief for me because it was a lot. And I'm sure I can't speak for my husband, but I'm sure it was for him too in some way because it's a lot,
A lot.
it's a lot. And so we then started pursuing adoption, which was its own journey.
Yeah, let's get into that
Yeah,
because it's again a beautiful option, and I hope
it's
anyone that wants to be able to take advantage of it can, but it's extremely complicated as well. I think people
it
think it's so
is.
much easier. Like there's just children like, oh, I'll go home with you. It's
No,
not. It's not like
no,
that.
it's not at all. It's really, it varies by state. So that's another complexity, right? So it depends on where you live. One thing that everybody has to have is like a home study. And so we started in the beginning doing kind of like our own research and figuring things out. And um, I don't recommend that. I don't. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. And so we originally kind of hooked up with an agency and ended up ending that relationship. And by the grace of God, a neighbor of ours, or not a neighbor, a friend of ours, their neighbor, the wife actually had her own agency where she would did all home studies for families. And she was so well connected within the adoption community. She had worked for an adoption agency for many years prior to starting her business. She was a gift. And her agency was a gift. Like they really, really helped us, like walked us through and helped us with our home study, which that is a huge project. Like, and you're that's FBI background checks and
And people come into your home.
people come into your home and inspect your house and they ask you every question you can imagine and they will ask you, your what risk you're willing to take from a baby, drug use of the birth mom, just you have to think of
Mm,
all things, right? And um so that can feel overwhelming, but at the same time you're like, well, they have to kind of know, you have to know where you stand. The good news is you can change that, right? It's not
yeah.
set in stone forever. But at the time, do you want open adoption? Do you want closed adoption? Semi-open. There's all different things that you're asked. And so we went through that whole process. You make your profile book, which is basically, your resume, if you will, for being a parent and
It's like
showing
your
pictures
human
of,
being. Like this is my whole life in a book.
here's a picture of my house, all
Yeah.
of the things. So a birth mom or dad can get, a feel for you and your family and decide if that's something that they want to think about matching with you. So we did all of that work. We got matched with an attorney and a birth mom, and we were so excited. We were going to have a boy, and we started cultivating a relationship with the birth mom. And I used to take her to doctor's appointments, and I would take her out to eat and do things like that. And we would go back and forth. And um, got the call that she was, we had told everybody because at this point now, right now, we're sharing a little bit more. And we had had the nursery. My mom went crazy buying clothes. Like, everybody's just so invested now, right? Because we've been through all of this. They want us to have a family so bad. And um, we got the call and rushed over there, obviously, and we spent, a day and a half, 2 days at the hospital, and we named him and held him and did all of those things. And um, the morning that we were packing up to go to the hospital, so in Florida, which is where we were and where we adopted our children, you have 48 hours. So a birth mother has 48 hours to sign the paperwork over. Again, every state is different. That time varies, but in Florida, it's 48 hours. And so we were going to the hospital the day that she was supposed to get released. We were driving there that morning. We get a call from the attorney saying, you need to get her right away. We think she's changing her mind,
This is your attorney.
our attorney.
Okay.
So we scramble, pack up, rush over there, and they won't let us upstairs to the room. And so her choice, the birth mom's choice. And so we went and sat at the chapel in the hospital. We didn't know where to go. And that seemed like the right place to go. And we knew it wasn't going to change, but they were like, just hang tight, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, the attorney came down and said, I'm sorry, but this isn't going to happen. And I will say the miscarriage was hard, very hard. This was life shattering. We
Yeah.
were broken, like just absolutely broken. Here we are, we have a diaper bag, we have all the stuff for him, we have a car seat in our car because you have to. You can't bring the baby home if you don't have one. Um, and we drove home. My husband took everything out of the car, put it in the nursery, shut the door, and he was like, "Do not go in that room.
Mm.
Like just don't do it." Because we were just a mess. And so we took a few weeks to really mourn and grieve and just wrap our heads around everything that had happened. And the one thing that we both came out of it knowing was we want to do this. Like we want to be parents. Like there's no doubt about it in our minds. And so as hard as this is, we're going to go at it again. And so we reached out to our home study lady, which her name is Amy Ember, if anybody's
Can
in
I ask you,
Florida.
can I ask you something? How
Yeah.
did Amy and Burr help you through the pivot, the failed piece of
She
it?
was incredible. Because
Or like,
I,
and I mean that more generally. Of course, I want to hear how she helped you, but like, how do these agencies help families where this happens?
yeah, it's a great question. I can't speak to overall. I can only speak to our experience, but because I called her and I'm like, we don't know what do we do? You know? And so she was basically like, do this, call this. She just told us step by step, kind of, here's all the things that you should do. And she said, like, when you're ready to get back in, let's get back in. And she connected us with another agency, an adoption agency in Florida. And I want to say within a couple of months, we were actually presented with two birth moms, we were like, holy cow.
Hmm.
And so, and then of course, immediately we're like, can we do two? Can we do two at one
Yeah.
time? This is because again, you're just, we ultimately decided that we couldn't. And when I saw my daughter's birth mother's photo, I literally got chills all over my body.
Mm.
I knew in my gut, I'm like, that's it. This is who we're supposed to be connected with. And we did not connect with the other family because I just had like this this reaction to her that I can't even explain. I don't know. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And she was an angel. She was so open with us, so like from the beginning, just like this, this is your baby.
Did you
Told
tell
the
her what had happened?
She knew what had happened. She knew that we were very scared,
Hmm.
and that it was like she would, as time went on, she would ask us. At the time that we matched, we didn't know what she was having.
Hmm.
So when she found out, like she found out there was a girl we found out, which was kind of cool that we got to experience like not
Yeah.
knowing and then finding out um and then we met in person for the first time. So again, we have a caseworker through the agency, and so she coordinated us meeting, and she was there for the first meeting. And so we met and talked, and we got to meet her. She has two daughters. We got to meet her two daughters. And so there was all these, connections that were happening. And from the first day, she was like, here's my cell phone number, like contact me like it was very just, again, the ideal situation, honestly, that we so desperately needed. And she was such a gift and so gracious to us. I mean, to the point where she was told every doctor's appointment, she's like, I want them in the room when the baby's born. I mean, she was very, very thoughtful about how she managed everything, which is not always the situation. So, but again, it was heaven sent, honestly. And so we were there when our little girl was born, and my husband got to cut the umbilical cord.
Ugh.
And we got the hospital that we were at was incredibly welcoming. They got us our own room, so we got to
Mm.
stay at the hospital with our daughter in the room with us. That is not the case always as well. It's the interesting thing, and again, this is a few years ago, but the interesting thing about hospitals and doctors, not everybody is supportive of adoption. Not
Mhm.
everybody is supportive of the process. Right? So every hospital is different, every doctor is different, every nurse is different, right? How they manage that. We were very fortunate that in this case, everyone was wonderful. And I think she also led that effort, right? The fact that she was so adamant and open and who we were and the role that we played, I think made everyone else kind of fall in line, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, but that's not the case all the time.
Did
Um,
you did you know at that point you must have whether you were going to be having an open or part open or closed adoption?
Thank you for asking that. So that was one of the questions. So originally when we originally started the adoption process, we had said we would have like a partially open adoption, meaning open in the sense that we know who each other are. We'll send pictures and communications, but visits and things like that, we were not sure about. It was all very new to us.
Yeah.
After the failed adoption, we were like, we don't care. We will we'll have visits. Sure.
Mm.
Yes. And I think just being more educated and understanding the process a little bit more, it made us feel like, yeah, we can do that. Why not? And for us, like it was never going to be a secret that our children were adopted ever. I mean,
Mhm.
we would tell them from the time that they were old enough to understand, was not something we were ashamed of. We were very proud of it. We were happy to be doing it. So there was no shame in any of that. And so we thought, well, if that's the case, then what is it? It doesn't, it's better for the child
Right.
to have an open adoption because then they they see that relationship. It's not a secret. It's not something for them to be ashamed about. And so that was a very big deal for us. So yes, thank you for asking that. So this wasn't open. And so I mean, my daughter's 11. I text her birth mom probably every month, every other month to check in and send pictures. We have had several visits. We've moved out of Florida. When she was 9 months old. But anytime we go back, we have a visit. They've actually come out on the West Coast. We met halfway. Um, we've done Zoom calls or FaceTime calls. So we've made an effort to keep those, that open. And my daughter gets to sit on and talk to them and, um, have a relationship with her birth mom and with her birth sisters and birth
I was going to
grandma. And
ask about the birth sisters. Are her birth sisters older than she is?
they are. So the youngest of the two, I want to say was 9 or 10, like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there,
Hmm.
when Naya was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
she's able to have somewhat of a relationship with them.
oh yeah, she
Yeah.
adores them.
Mm,
Yeah, she does. She adores them. And so,
amazing.
and to be honest, that first visit, you're like, a little nervous, but we were not as nervous because we knew, like, we had a relationship with them. We were in the hospital. We had a relationship prior. We were in the hospital with them. I mean, my husband was taking the girls to go to the vending machine all the time to get snack. Like
Yeah.
we are connected
Mm,
forever. Um, and it was a beautiful experience. It still is.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And then, we've moved around a lot and we did all of these different things. And then a few years ago, actually during COVID, believe it or not, or right before we had decided we'd finally settled down in California and, thought it was time to have our second. And so we started all over
Oh
again.
my God. Let me ask you one thing before we move into the number set and the number
Yeah,
two. Um, did you face fear, accept stigma about the adoption once she was in this world? Once she started being around other kids, once you started about being around other parents?
it's a really good question. We haven't. We really haven't. And now if people have said things, you know,
That you don't
outside of
know?
we
Yeah.
don't know, possibly. But so this is a great story. So again, from the time that our daughter was born, and a part of our prayers, we pray for her birth family. We
Mhm.
do the same thing now with my son. So we have the same prayer that we've always said since my daughter was born. And so when she was old enough, really could start understanding, we've always used the terminology. We call her birth mom by her first name, all of those types of things. And so in second grade, they do every grade, but in second grade, they do like an all about me where you get to get up in front of the class and tell what's your favorite color, all those things. And she came to us and said, I want to tell my class that I'm adopted.
Mm,
And we were like, you do? And she's like, yeah, is that okay? And we're like, absolutely. Because again, it's not a secret, right? It's
mhm.
not something we don't hide it. And so I went to her teacher and said, hey, this is what she wants to do. And she was like, absolutely. We would love for her to do it, but will you be there? And I said, yeah. So I went there and that was her closing line was,
Wow.
I mean, in second grade. Yeah. And
That's
we were so
amazing.
proud that she felt confident enough that she wanted to do it because I'm sure for her it was like a secret because it's not like she's telling all of her friends. It's not one of those things that like you're like, "Hi, my name is Tracy and I'm an adoptive mom." You know what I mean? Like they're my kids. It's
Hmm.
there's you almost forget. to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and so and the kids were like, "What?" In a good way. And they were so supportive and they asked a lot of good questions as young kids would do, that nothing that we weren't able to answer. And honestly, Naya answered most of them because she knew the answer, she knows what to say.
Hmm.
Um, and like one of the kids in her class was like, Naya, it doesn't matter. We love you no matter, like it was almost like a non-issue,
Mm.
which was one. And then I had said, because the one thing that I always tell my daughter too is you have no idea who's adopted. There
Right.
are so many people around us that that were adopted or know somebody who's adopted, and so I asked at kind of the end, I said, hey, how many people in here know someone who was adopted? And, you know, let's say 5 or 7 hands go up,
Hmm.
in her one little class, right?
Right.
And so my uncle's adopted, my whatever it may be. And so I think that showed her too, like, oh, wow. And she had no idea, right? So it was like, that was a pretty cool experience. But I
Amazing.
mean, overall, nobody has ever surprised because they'll always say, "Oh my gosh, she looks just like you guys."
How does that
And
make you feel when you hear that?
I, I mean, I guess well, it's funny because of people that don't know, and we tell people that are close to us, but it's not like a random person on the street, but they'll be like, "Oh, she's tall like her dad," because my
Right.
husband is really tall.
Hmm.
And we're like, "Oh yeah." In your mind, you want to be like, "Well,"
Right.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it can feel a little awkward. My biggest thing anytime anybody says anything is more how she feels, right? Like I want to make sure that she's doesn't take anything
Yeah.
the wrong way or feel, and I mean, knock on wood, that's never happened. And again, people are very gracious and nobody's ever said anything negative to us. I
Yeah.
think now it's very different when you talk about adoption than many years ago,
Yeah.
right? Like you have all these celebrities who've there's adoption is a much more accepted way to become parents, I think,
Hmm.
today than it was maybe even at the time that we were first starting to adopt, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's just a different, and for us, here's the one thing that I would say. If you want to be a parent, in whatever means that is, you want to get an egg donor, you want to have a surrogate, you want to adopt, you want to do whatever you decide to do it.
Mm.
Just do what feels right for you and your family, you and your husband. That is your family, or you and your partner, or you, whomever it is, or you on your own. Whatever it is that you're deciding to do, follow your gut. Follow, like truly listen to what feels right, and go for it.
Yeah.
And there are going to be obstacles. You are going to go over. I mean, it's not easy. Infertility isn't easy. Adoption isn't easy. I'm sure surrogacy isn't, I haven't experienced any of that, but right, I don't, it's not easy, but
Yeah.
it is worth it.
Yeah. Every path has its
You would,
roadblocks.
like, I look back today, I would not change one thing that we
Mm.
went through. Not one. I wouldn't, the failed adoption, the miscarriage, I would not trade any of it because the 2 kids that we have now, they were meant to be ours. And it's so people can say that to you all day long.
And you want to punch them in the
You
face,
want to, yes, because
generally.
you're in the thick of it and you're thinking,
Yeah.
you have no idea what I went through. You got pregnant, you had 2 kids, you have no idea what I'm feeling. I can tell you, as somebody who has been in the trenches of this, you will look back when the time comes and you're holding that little baby, and whatever means that baby comes to you, everything will go away.
Yeah.
That's your baby.
And now let's get to your second baby.
Yes. So,
So COVID struck and you're like, let's do this again.
yeah, we were like, we'd been talking about it we wanted to do it for a long time. My daughter's been asking for a sibling since she was like 2. I think as soon as she could talk, that's when
Yeah.
it started. But we moved from Florida to Texas, we moved from Texas to California, and just life, right? Working, getting her, like things just take over. And so we were like, okay, we're going to do it. And so we found an agency out here who does home studies, and we got our home study done. And I think it was, again, COVID time frame. So it was a very different time. Like there wasn't a lot of people having babies,
Mm.
truthfully, right? And so it took 2 years. Now, the one thing I will say, we live in California, so the rules out here and the guidelines are different.
Mm.
I had met with several different attorneys and a couple different agencies, and for us, what we were used to because of Florida, we decided to adopt from Florida again. I was still part of, which is such a great thing that Amy does. There's once you are work with her, you're kind of part of her inner community. And so there's a Facebook group that we're all a part of that have worked with her. And, she's getting contacted all the time about, hey, there's this, here's a birth mom, this opportunity from different attorneys and stuff. And so that's how we um, kind of managed our process was through her and that group. And we put our hat in sometimes and we didn't get, you put your name out there and we didn't get accepted. And then sometimes we had a couple that we were presented to us and it just didn't feel right. Again, it's such a hard thing to say again, because I know what it's like to be in this, but you really have to follow your gut because it never leads you it just doesn't lead you in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, my husband and I were aligned in that if something didn't feel right, our agreement was always if one of us is like, it doesn't feel right, we don't do it
Mm-hmm.
because there's a reason, right, that's happening. And so we were coming up. So our home study was good for 2 years. We were coming up on the end of that second year mark. And I had kind of just been like, you know what, I don't think this is going to happen. Like if we get to the end of the second year, I think we're one and we have our daughter.
And did she know you
So
were she
grateful.
did she know you were going through this?
Oh yeah, because she actually had to get interviewed.
Oh,
So she had to
sure.
be interviewed, right?
And
All of
how
that.
old was she at this point?
She
Like 7?
7, 8, yeah,
Okay.
7, 8, because she
Okay.
was 9 when he was born.
Okay.
So yeah, she was all in, and we explained, like, listen, we're doing this. We had to explain what a failed adoption was because we didn't want her to feel, again, there's a lot of emotion in
A
that,
lot of
right?
stake, yeah.
Yeah. So we did all of, yeah, we did that whole process, and I had resolved myself to the fact that it wasn't going to happen. We were not going to have another one. And I had said, I think our home study, it's funny how you blank things out and you forget, but I think that it was over, let's say it was November. And I think we got matched with our son's birth mom in like July. I want to
Mm.
think it was June or July. No, maybe a little bit before that. And he was born in September. So our
Wow.
home study was, you know what I mean? Like it was, yeah.
Just in the nick of time.
And I will say honestly, like at first we got presented and we were like, oh my gosh, like I had a little bit of a panic attack because I was like, again, I was one of those people like once I resolved myself to it's probably, I had almost moved past it in some way. Like I think I had just blocked out like being protecting myself so that
Yeah.
knowing it's not going to happen, it's fine. And when we got matched, I was like, can we do this? Like she's already, we're starting all over. You just have all these
Right.
emotions. And my husband's like, what are you talking about? You've been wanting this for years. Um, but it was a very different situation, two very different birth moms, but it's still open. She can contact us, we can contact her at any time. And
Did she have questions about the original adoption and the other birth mom and family?
no,
Great.
no, I mean, Naya, my daughter's name's Naya.
Mm-hmm.
She met them. We were all at the hospital, together. I got to cut the umbilical cord this time.
Nice.
So that was I was in the room when he was born.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it was, we got to, we flew to Florida and She ended up delivering a day or two earlier than we expected. So my husband was actually flying from Australia.
Oh God. Hi.
He was in the air when our son was born. So that's why I got to kind of do it, be there and do
Hmm.
everything. And it was, I mean, he's amazing. He's two
So you have
now.
2 and 11.
Hmm.
Wow.
Which, it's funny. I don't know any better,
Right.
but there's something pretty cool about their relationship. My
Yeah.
daughter is like, they love each other so, so much. And she is his big sister, but she wants to, I'll give him a bath, I'll change his, she wants to be so involved, and he just can't get enough of her.
Hmm.
Sometimes you worry about that gap and what that's going to look like, but they're thick as thieves. I
I
mean,
love it.
they cannot get enough of
I
each
mean, you're
other.
gonna have the
I mean, they
best
fight.
babysitter too. You're gonna have the best. Of course, they're
Yeah.
siblings.
I mean, it's hysterical. You think, how
Yeah.
can a 11-year-old fight with a 2-year-old? Oh, no, they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so your daughter is also the inspiration behind the Decided collection, which is your business. So
Yes.
let's move into
Yes.
how that piece was
Oh,
born.
thank you. Yes. So my around the time, so the Decided collection is pajamas for preteen girls. And the reason that I started that was because my daughter. So around the time she turned 8, 9, there was this big shift in kind of how she wanted to walk through the world. She suddenly didn't want rainbows and butterflies and pinks and sparkly, and she didn't want all that
Mm.
characters. Um, and I struggled really hard to find her pajamas. And I started talking to other moms, and they're like, oh, yeah, she wears my old t-shirts. She'll wear like a random pair, some of her old shorts, whatever it may be. And I was still working full time in corporate America at the time that all this shift in her was happening. But my husband decided he wanted to go back to school to get his master's degree. I had been wanting to leave my job. I loved my job. I loved the people that I worked with, but I wanted to have more time with my daughter. And I've always had it in my heart that I wanted to have my own business. I didn't know what that would be, but it's always been on my heart. And so I stepped out of corporate America, and I think that was a gift in the sense that I had time to think a little bit more, not just that day to day. Um, and I woke up one morning and was like, I'm going to do it. Why can't I do this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, it's interesting because those tween years are such an interesting time, because I do think you either are young and cute or suddenly you're 15.
Yeah.
And there's this whole time period in between that we're not cultivating enough. You know what I mean? And so I have no fashion background, so that's not my career.
Mhm.
Um, but it was one foot in front of the other. One more conversation with somebody, a friend who was like, I know somebody who does this. You should go talk to that person. And 3 years later, we launched in November of last year.
Oh my gosh, you're so new.
I know, it's very new.
Wow.
Very new,
Like
very
two
new.
months ago, November, or a year and
Mm-hmm.
2 months ago?
Mm-mm.
2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm super proud of it. It's like the fabric is incredible. My daughter was a very key, I mean, she played a key role, obviously, target market, but so there's no tags. She hates tags.
Yeah.
So no tags, and the fabric had to be a certain way. The style had to look, you know, um, just more elevated, more mature, but still comfortable and cozy and very much age appropriate. And ultimately, my goal is to create, I mean, obviously, I want the pajamas to be a hit and take off and people to purchase them and love them as much as we do. But I also want to create community. Having a daughter, I don't know what it's like to have a son as a tween yet, but I will in a few years.
Mhm.
But having a daughter go through these years it's an interesting time. They're dealing with so much, right?
Yeah.
Hormones and friends, and you start to get into some of the more mean girl things,
Yes.
and you also get into cliques, and they get more insecure, like they notice people noticing them, they don't want to raise their hand, they don't want to put themselves out there as much. And so really working hard to, like, remember who you are, like, don't worry about what other people think. And again, I say these things to her, I'm also saying them to myself, right? We all deal with this, but if we can catch them when they're younger, think about what the difference that would make. I mean, as adults, we're all pouring affirmations and all these things into ourselves, right? Self-help and is a what multi-billion dollar
Right.
industry. Well, what if you can hit them before they go to high school and you're
Yeah.
getting that,
Oof.
you're helping them really own who they are. And another thing that I say to my daughter all the time is enjoy the age that you are.
Mhm.
Don't worry about getting older,
Yeah, I
like
think that's lost on kids, always. They always want to be
always.
older until you hit the
Yeah.
point where you want to be younger.
Yeah. Because I'm like, you understand the older you get, the
Right.
more responsibility you have.
Right. Right. I love it.
Yeah. So that's the Decided collection.
And
Like I said, I'm
currently
incredibly
it's
proud of it.
you direct to consumer. So
Yeah.
if people
My
want it,
website.
okay, which
Yep.
we'll link
Just,
out to.
yeah, decidedco.com. And I'm on
Is
Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn.
we'll link out to that too. Is the goal to be like everywhere? Is it to be, do you want to be in Target and Nordstrom? Do you just want to be in Nordstrom? Do you just want to be in Target? Do you know any of these answers? Am I
If
asking you
that
too many
No,
questions?
I love all the questions. I love
Okay.
it. I mean the goal would be to be out there. I would love to be in both Nordstrom's and Nordstrom and Target. I would love to
Hmm.
create a line just for Target,
Hmm.
right? Where I think the sky's the limit of what we could do. Um, and how I want to continue to grow the business and the brand. The big thing for me right now is really just awareness, right? I'm so new,
Yeah.
right? People don't know who I am. They don't know about the pajamas. And so that's really the hard work that has to happen. It's been happening and has to continue to happen, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love it. I love
Dude,
every minute of it.
entrepreneurship's the best. It's the
It
hardest and
really,
the best.
it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. I love every minute of it.
Well, you've already done this a few times, but I like to close everyone with like a saying or a cliche or a piece of advice that maybe somebody gave you that you think about.
Oh, that's a great. There's two.
Okay.
One is from a friend of mine who would always say, follow your gut. And
Hmm.
I truly believe that. That's something I say all the time. I say it to my friends. I have to remind myself about
Yeah.
that as well. But yeah, follow your gut. I think your body, there's that knowing. And I don't know if women have it more than men, but I know as women, we have it and follow it.
Mm.
Feel that. I think everybody has it. Everybody knows when something's pulling you a certain way and you try to ignore it or whatever it may be and don't ignore it, and I think too in that follow your gut is um do what's best for you.
Mhm.
We get so caught up in listening to everybody else and expectations that are put on us of when you should be doing something, how you should be doing something, and I think if you can follow your gut and let that lead you and then really stay true to what you want and what will make you happy and not everybody else happy. That's a big one. Um, and the other thing was, I'll never forget, I was very young, very early on in my career, and I had a lady that I worked for who was wonderful. And I was interviewing for another role in the company, and I was nervous, new and all that. And she said, just be yourself. You'll never go wrong as long as you just be yourself.
Amen.
And I thought, I that has stuck with me my whole ever since. And I
Mhm.
think, just again, stay true to who you are and you can't go wrong because you can only fake things for so long.
Right. Oh, I
So
love
those would
those.
be my two.
Thanks, Tracy.
Oh my gosh, this was wonderful. Thank you so much
So
for having
good.
me.
Thanks for being here, and I can't wait for people to try your cozy PJs.
Yes, please do. And thank you. And if at any point if you receive any questions or anything about
Yeah,
adoption I'd be
we'll
happy
pass it
to,
along
again,
for
I'm not an
sure.
expert. I can only speak to my experience, but I'm happy to
That's
share.
help. That's help. That's a lot. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.